Regulatory landscape, it's shifting pretty dramatically, and it's creating this like perfect storm of compliance needs.
Absolutely. And that storm is driving massive spending in information security.
Right. And that's what we're diving into today, that high-stakes world of B2B sales, but aimed specifically at InfoSec teams.
Exactly. This is all about understanding the InfoSec buyer. For them, compliance isn't just some legal box-ticking exercise. It's the core mandate. It dictates their entire architecture, their budget, everything.
So the sources we have today really trace that pressure. We're going from huge global benchmarks like GDPR and then drilling right down into the nitty-gritty of India's brand new digital personal data protection rules, the DPDP rules for 2025.
And we're also looking at the solutions, the specialized services designed to meet these rules, using a platform like Threat ResQ as a kind of case study.
So our mission really is to translate all this dense, complex text, the deadlines, the specific rules, the accountability stuff into actionable knowledge.
We want to pinpoint what operational needs turn a line in a legal document into a huge InfoSec purchase order.
Before we go too deep, we should probably set the stage. Define the key players for anyone who's not living and breathing this stuff.
Good idea. So we're talking about data fiduciaries, or DFs. That's basically any organization, any company that decides how and why to process personal data.
So basically every company with customers.
Pretty much. And then you have the data principal, the DP. And that's you. That's the individual whose data is being processed.
Okay, perfect. So let's anchor this in our main document. The DPDP rules 2025, which came out November 13th, 2025. This isn't some far-off idea, right? This thing has hard deadlines.
Very hard deadlines. It's a phased commencement, which is what InfoSec teams are really scrambling the map out right now.
Some of the administrative rules went live immediately.
Yeah, rules 1, 2, 17 to 21, mostly definitions and things. But the real operational complexity, that comes in waves.
So what's the first big wave? Let's say 1 year out from publication.
A year out, you have Rule 4. That covers the registration and obligations of what they call consent managers. It's the whole mechanism for managing user consent.
Okay, but the really heavy lift, the stuff that requires major system overhauls, that's coming later.
That's the 18-month mark.
18 months. That sounds like a lot of time, but any InfoSec leader listening to this knows that for a big, complex organization, 18 months to re-architect is, well, it's an incredibly tight deadline.
It's extremely tight. And that's when the bulk of the really demanding rules kick in. Rules 3, 5 through 16, 22, and 23. This is the stuff covering security mandates, data processing rules, the right to be forgotten.
So right now, teams are in that critical gap analysis phase. They're trying to figure out which vendors they need to bring in to even have a chance of hitting that deadline.
Exactly.
Okay, let's jump to the single biggest budget driver here. Rule 6, the one on reasonable security safeguards. What are companies being told they have to do?
This is where it gets really prescriptive, which is, a huge insight. The rule says DFs must protect personal data, but it doesn't just stop there.
It's not just be secure.
Not at all. It explicitly calls out specific technical methods, things like encryption, obfuscation, masking, or even using virtual tokens.
That is huge. Why is it so important that a regulator is getting that specific, calling out things like masking and encryption?
Because it shows they know many companies are running on legacy systems with, let's be honest, pretty generic security. Trying to bolt on end-to-end encryption across all your old databases is, well, it's almost impossible without specialized tools.
So this rule basically creates an immediate market for third-party solutions that can do this without making the company rebuild everything from scratch.
Precisely. And it's not just about protecting the data at rest, it's also about controlling who sees it.
Access control, logs, monitoring.
The whole package. The rule mandates measures to control access to computer resources. And this is key to ensure visibility of that access through proper logs and monitoring.
Which moves security away from just building a strong wall around the outside.
Right. It forces this internal, granular, zero-trust kind of thinking.
And if there's one thing that just screams budget headache for an InfoSec team, it has to be mandatory log retention. What did the DPDP rule say about that?
This is where it gets really fascinating. Rule 8, Section 3, lays out a non-negotiable 1-year log retention requirement.
1 year minimum.
A minimum of 1 year. DFs have to retain personal data, all the associated traffic data, and other processing logs.
That just sounds like a massive architectural problem. If you're a big platform with hundreds of millions of users, keeping every single access log for 365 days is a gargantuan storage and audit challenge.
It is. It forces them to invest in scalable logging systems, SIEMs, that are not just huge, but also highly auditable.
The source even gives an example, right, with an ebook platform.
Yeah, a great one. It says, if you, data principal X, buy an ebook on platform Y, and then you delete your account, it doesn't matter.
Platform Y still has to keep your order details and all the logs for at least a year.
Even after you've requested deletion.
So that mandatory retention, it basically defines the procurement need for the next year. You have to buy that capacity now.
It's a fixed, auditable requirement. And that's a perfect problem for an external service to solve.
Okay, let's talk about the highest pressure situation of all, the data breach. The clock is always ticking. How tough are the DPDP rules here?
They're about as tough as they get. They really mirror the most stringent global standards, like GDPR. DFs have two huge notification requirements.
Okay, what's the first?
First, you have to notify the person affected, the data principal.
Yeah.
And you have to do it without delay. It has to be clear, understandable, detailing the breach, the consequences, what you're doing about it.
Informing the user is one thing, but the institutional reporting, that's where we get that famous, incredibly stressful countdown clock.
That's right. You have to notify the board, again, without delay. But then you have to follow up with a detailed report. The nature of the breach, the impact, what you did, and who you think caused it all within 72 hours.
72 hours from the moment you're aware of it.
Exactly.
To detect, contain, analyze the impact, figure out what to do, and try to find the person responsible. I mean, trying to do that manually is just, it's terrifying.
It's a complete stress test of your entire security operation. If you're relying on manual log correlation, you will fail that 72-hour window, and that means massive fines.
Which is why automated tooling for this is just not optional anymore for any serious player.
It's non-negotiable.
Now, this all clearly ties back to the global foundation for this stuff, which is really the EU's GDPR. How do these specific DPDP rules connect to those bigger principles that InfoSec teams already know?
The connection is fundamental. GDPR, from 2018, it established these key principles that really define what a mature security posture looks like. Two are critical here.
What's the first?
Integrity and confidentiality. Basically, having the right security measures to protect data from being accessed, changed, or destroyed without authorization. That's the philosophical parent of DPDP's Rule 6 on encryption and masking.
And the second principle, that's really what's driving this entire governance and compliance market we're talking about.
It is. It's accountability. Organizations don't just have to be compliant. They have to be able to demonstrate it with documentation, with processes, with audit trails.
So when InfoSec leaders are shopping, they aren't just buying a firewall, they're buying a system that can prove they followed the rules.
A system that can generate the report for that 1-year log retention or document every single step of that 72-hour breach response.
And we can't forget the rights of the data principal, right? The right to access, the right to erasure, data portability. These aren't just legal ideas, they are hard functional requirements for an IT system.
Absolutely. Take the right to erasure. It sounds simple, but ensuring a deletion request actually propagates securely across all your backups, all your logs, every system, and that you can prove it happened.
That's a huge technical challenge.
A huge challenge.
Yeah.
And it's now firmly in the InfoSec team's remit.
This all brings us perfectly to the solution landscape. What are teams actually buying? We've got this RFI document here, a request for an ISO 27001 assessment, which feels like a perfect snapshot of a typical customer.
This RFI is great. It's a proxy for the InfoSec buyer who's just drowning in compliance demands. You've got an IT company, 3 locations, about 500 laptops, 30 applications. They need to get ISO 27001 certified.
Which is often the first step before you even tackle something like GDPR or DPDP.
Exactly. And look at the scope. HR, IT, legal, supply chain, accounts. 7 different departments all need to be compliant under this one framework.
And they're asking for a gap assessment, consulting for readiness, and coordination during the audit?
The key thing here is that their problem isn't a technical vulnerability. They say they already outsourced their pen testing. Their problem is governance.
It's coordination. How do you get evidence and manage effort across 7 different departments without going crazy?
Manual coordination will fail that ISO audit, and it will absolutely fail that 72-hour DPDP clock.
Which is where these compliance automation platforms make their big B2B pitch. So let's look at Threat ResQ's TRC platform. How does something like this directly address that pain point?
TRC is built for this exact problem. Its whole value proposition is streamlining audit readiness and maintaining continuous compliance.
Continuous, that word again.
It's everything. And it's built to handle multiple frameworks at once. The source lists ISO 27001, SOC2, IPA, GDPR, and DPDP. For any company working globally, that's essential.
So if I'm the IT head at that company from the RFI and I'm dealing with 7 departments, what's the killer feature that solves my coordination nightmare?
It's the Unified Compliance Health Dashboard.
Okay, what does that do?
It tracks the status of a specific control, let's say mandatory encryption from DPDP, and shows you how it maps to the same control under ISO 27001. And it does that across all 7 of your departments in real time. It just centralizes the chaos.
So that speaks directly to that accountability principle. You're getting real-time demonstrable proof of who is and who isn't compliant across the whole company.
Which is exactly what an auditor wants to see. And that brings us to efficiency. The big win for the budget is the promise of accelerated audits because of automated evidence collection.
Right, because manually chasing HR for policy documents and bugging IT for server logs, that's what takes months and months in a normal audit.
It's a nightmare. So if a platform like TAC can really accelerate that timeline by up to 80%, like the source claims, that's a massive saving in labor and time.
It reframes the platform. It's not just a security cost, it's a cost-saving tool.
That 80% claim is the direct answer to that RFI's request for readiness and coordination. The automation and the cloud integrations create this always-on compliance posture.
So they aren't scrambling 18 months from now when those DPDP rules fully kick in.
Already.
So to sum up that B2B pitch then, DPDP's Rule 8 mandates 1 year auditable log retention. The InfoSec team needs a solution for that capacity and complexity. A platform like TAC sells them automated evidence collection and continuous monitoring across DPDP, GDPR, and ISO all at once.
That is the pitch. It's a direct, measurable solution to a critical legal and architectural risk.
You have to speak the language of accountability.
You have to. It's not just about stopping attacks anymore. It's about providing provable, automated adherence to these very specific, non-negotiable rules. The 72-hour window, the 1-year retention. Compliance has moved from being a legal problem to a continuous engineering problem.
So what does this all mean then? We've seen that regulatory compliance driven by DPDP's deadlines, the specific security demands, the intense pressure of that breach clock, that's really the #1 driver for InfoSec budgets and architecture today.
And the market is clearly rewarding solutions that promise automated continuous compliance across all the relevant standards at the same time. The goal isn't a one-off audit anymore.
It's a demonstrable, real-time security posture that can satisfy regulators in Delhi, Brussels, and California all at once.
Proving your accountability 24/7.
So the next frontier in digital security, it isn't just defense, it's provable, auditable obedience.
Which leaves us with a final thought. If data fiduciaries have to ensure that withdrawing your consent is just as easy as giving it, what kind of technology will it take to truly make the right to be forgotten a reality for a company dealing with billions of data points spread across a complex global architecture? That journey from a legal principle to flawless technical execution, that remains one of the core challenges for the entire industry.